Hi, this is Tim from UK Home Gym, your home for UK specific independent home gym tips and advice. And today, this is a bit of a raw video. I've literally just come in from a run, and I thought I wanted to share a story with you because I think that it illustrates something quite important. Basically, I started running well before I started lifting weights, well before I started having started building a home gym and stuff like that. Running was my sport. The first sport I was really sort of into was football, but then I sort of became football and running, and eventually it became just running, and now it's running and lifting. Um, so. Um, One kind of thing that I've always wanted to do, even when I was back just playing football, I've always been interested in, always, it was like a bucket list thing for me to run a marathon. I really wanted to run a marathon, once. Remember very clearly, as a child, sort of watching the London Marathon. It was always on the TV every year, and just thinking that's incredible. One day I'd like to be one of those people in the marathon. And as I sort of grew up, that I never really did any running at that stage, even when I was thinking those thoughts. But it never deserted me. It always like remained a very kind of big, and I wouldn't say like a bucket list thing. I would say that there was three or four big sort of ambitions that I had in my life, and one of those was to run a marathon. Though I'd never done anything about it, never done anything to sort of go towards achieving that goal. Um, Fast forward to my sort of mid 20s or whatever, and I started getting into running, and I started running 10Ks, predominantly 10Ks, and then I sort of moved in, did a couple of half marathons, and then I sort of got into this sort of, I don't know, I don't want to call it a rut, but like a sort of like I ended up basically just doing half marathons and 10Ks and half marathons and 10Ks throughout the year, and several of these, I just sort of, that was what I did. But I didn't do anything about this big goal that I had of running a marathon. Now then, sort of, towards the end of my 20s, I moved to South Korea, and I did lots of running in South Korea, and I did lots of playing football in South Korea. Um, but I sort of got to the point where I thought, you know what, instead of just having this goal, I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to actually train for a marathon. I'm going to run a marathon. And that's going to be fantastic. I'm going to achieve the thing that I've dreamed of for so long. So I started training for the marathon. I didn't really know what I was doing, but a few people who I'd spoken to sort of told me, basically all you need to do to run a marathon. This is experienced marathon runners. They told me all you need to do to run a marathon is do one really long run at the weekend, and one short run during the week, and that should be fine. You really don't need to do anything else if your only goal is to finish. And my only goal was to finish. So I did that, and I built up my I built up my ability to run longer distances, and I got to the stage where it was probably about, I knew you had to taper for a marathon. So I got to the stage where I was about to taper for the marathon. I did 30K, did it quite well in the heat, and I thought, I'm ready. I'm so ready to do the marathon. It doesn't matter, I'm not really too fussed about the time. I'm just going to go for it. Um, I didn't really have any strategy about, nutrition, about drinking, or I didn't know anything about these things back then. But that was it. I was sort of in the taper. I was really looking forward to it. I even did like a very minor interview with a very minor news publication about my marathon preparation. I don't know why they were interested in speaking to me about this, but anyway, you know. So anyway, it was the taper, about 3, maybe 4 weeks. I want to say just the beginning of the taper. I wanted to taper for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I went for a midweek run as I usually did after work, and I would go a bit faster. and I remember there was like a tunnel. It was like a kilometer-long tunnel that you had to run through to get through to some mountains on the other side. And I was coming back through this tunnel, and I just felt I felt really good, and I was going really quickly. And I just felt something in my left ankle, and it felt really weird. Um, I hoped it would go away. The next day, it didn't go away, and I was having like pain walking on it. I sort of, I tried to go to some doctors and stuff like that, let them have a look at it. With just 3 weeks left to go, wasn't much time. I had no success with any of these doctors or anything like that. I was sort of hobbling around. I was in quite a lot of pain, but the rest of my body was just ready to go for this marathon. It started to ease a little bit just as the marathon date sort of approached. And I thought, I'm going to go for it anyway. I've already paid for this marathon. The marathon is the Chuncheon International Marathon, and there are two international marathons in South Korea. Maybe there are more now, but there were two when I did it. And there was the Seoul International Marathon and the Chuncheon International Marathon. And the Chuncheon one, the one in Seoul is just like a big city marathon that just goes around loads of big city locations, whatever. But the Chuncheon one is special because it goes around this amazing lake, and it's really it's a really spectacular course, and it's just at the beginning of autumn, and you've got the leaves are just changing color, and it is really a spectacular run. Um, so I really didn't feel 100%. Really felt a lot of pain in that ankle, in that calf, and but I still thought I'm just going to go for it. What's the point? I've got nothing to lose. So me and my love interest at the time decided to take the early morning shuttle from Seoul. There was like a shuttle for runners, and we took that. Went up. I was on the start line. Didn't feel 100%, but I thought it's a beautiful day. I'm going to go for it. And starting pistol went, and I ran. I could just feel pain with every step. But I ran, did 10 kilometers, got through to about 12 kilometers, and I just thought, I don't know if I'm doing myself some kind of irreparable damage here, because every single step is pain. And I stopped at an aid station, and all the other runners in the tail slowly went past me one by one as I was just standing at this aid station. There were a couple of other runners there standing at the aid station who had also, decided to stop. And eventually, the very end of the tail sort of went past me, and then the sweeper van came along. It was a sweeper bus, actually. It's a very big one. And there were quite a few people in there. But I'll never forget it. It was a real low. And I remember this young lady sort of came up to me, and she put like a mark with a black marker pen through my number. And then I had to take the number off. And it sort of, this sort of bus basically takes you through to the end, and they sort of mark you down as a DNF, and took me through to the end. And I got off the bus, and I went to find my love interest, and I just remember the look in her eyes, because she knew that I was really struggling going into the race. And she just looked at me with hope for a second, just saying, "Well, did you do it? Did you finish?" And just as I sort of, I just sort of hung my head, and just that look of hope that she had in her face just evaporated. And I remember it, and it was a very, I just remember that whole day. I remember every single detail of that day. And it's such a low in my running journey. But, and this is the point of the video, I think, that low sort of, it inspired me. It made me think, I'm going to do this one day. I am going to do this. I'm not going to be defined by this this injury, by this setback. I'll overcome it. And it took me several years to come back and start running, because after that injury, I had another injury, and then I had another health problem, and it kept me out of running for 2 years. And I remember, like, sort of in the middle of that period, just trying to go down to this little river where I used to run along, and to try and, just to try and do a few steps. And it was painful. It was bad, and I didn't enjoy it. Everything was wrong. I didn't feel like I would ever be able to run again. But eventually, after a lot of trial and error, I think I realized that injuries were setting me back. Injuries were setting me back, and they were just standing in my way, and I wasn't really able to do anything because of injuries. And uh, I don't think, eventually it sort of dawned on me that I don't know if people. I mean, some people are injury prone, right? You see, there are footballers who are injury prone. There are other athletes or whatever who are injury prone, but I don't know if you can say that an amateur athlete is injury prone. Not unless you've done the thing that I'm now going to talk about. And that thing is strength training. And strength training, particularly if you can get yourself a home gym. I just think this is the thing that transformed everything. So we fast forward from that story now into, like, a version of me that, started existing a few years ago. And that's not someone, I decided I was going to run a marathon, and I ran my first marathon in 2022. But my preparation for that marathon was completely different from my preparation for the Chuncheon Marathon, where I probably would have got, a time much faster than I ended up in 2022. And 2022, I ran the Chester Marathon. But this one I went into with a completely different approach. I was running a lot more, but a lot slower. And I was going into it as an amateur hybrid athlete, or a hybrid trainee. And the difference that made was incredible, because I knew, this is the thing, I knew on the start line that I would be able to run the marathon. Even though I'd never done more than 32 kilometers in training, I knew that I was going to do it. Of course, there's a tiny lingering doubt in my mind. I was like, the only time I've ever tried to do this before, I got a DNF, and it was my only DNF in any race ever. But there was except for that tiny lingering doubt, which I think, is very difficult to dispel. I was so confident. I was so confident I had what it took. And when I ran that marathon, I got into, maybe any marathon runner will tell you the same thing. Once you hit, kilometer 30, kilometer 32, mile 20, whatever, that's when you just go into a completely different phase of the run. It's, anyone can do the 30-kilometer thing, but when you get beyond it, you sort of, you see people going through all sorts of things. You yourself go through all sorts of things. Your body just does not want to continue doing it. And I've done marathons since, and I've been in the same place. Your body does not want to continue going after 30, 32 kilometers. But because I had the strength, because I had the ability to stay injury-free because of my strength training, I went into that marathon completely confident in my body. There was no part of me that was having a little niggle or a little, my knees are not feeling great, my calves are not feeling great. Everything was ready. Everything was prepared. And, this is the point of what I'm trying to say with this video, is that DNF taught me so much. It taught me that if you sort of open the door to injuries and you try and push yourself, you're going to get injured because, that's the way things go. That's the way the body works. But if you prepare your body and make it totally, I don't want to say bulletproof, but I do want to say make it ready, you know. Don't ask it to do things that it's unfair on it, to make those demands. Give it the preparation, give it the tools it needs, and the tools it needs is for you to go in the gym and do your squats, do your deadlifts, do your Romanian deadlifts, and then don't just stop there and think, well, that's it, I've done my legs, brilliant, nothing else matters. Do core exercises, do upper body stuff, go into it, go into the marathon. This is what happened is I went into the marathon, I went into that marathon like, 10 kilograms, 15 kilograms heavier than I was when I went for the Chuncheon marathon. And, as a result, yeah, probably I was a lot slower than I could have been, but my body was totally ready for doing a marathon. So if you are the kind of person who wants to do marathons every year, and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, or for as long as I can, that's what I've resolved to do, is to do a marathon every year. You need to have the strength to be able to do that. You need to be able to stay injury-free. You need to be able to run all year long so that you can run marathons every year. You can't just say, right, I'm going to turn it on and do loads of intensive, high-volume training for 3 months every year. No, you have to put in the work all year round if that's what you want to do. And, now I've got that marathon fever. Now I want to keep doing it every single year. This is something that, and now I'm in the middle of doing my marathon training, and that's why this is sort of, come to the forefront in my mind. The strength, it must be there. You must have a body capable of doing it. You must try and make yourself as injury-proof as possible. And the only way you can do that is with strength work, by pushing your muscles, by increasing, fighting back against muscle atrophy and making yourself, making your muscles ready to be pushed for longer distances, for more intensity. And as I've said in this video and in other videos, a home gym is your best friend, because if you're marathon training, you are so time poor. In most cases, if you've got a job, if you're working and you maybe you've got a family and other responsibilities, you're so time poor that do you really have the time to sort of, commute somewhere to go to a gym to do, 30, 40 minutes of strength work every day or every other day, or however you've got your training split sorted out? If it's in your house, you get it done whenever it is convenient for you. So that's why I think a home gym is, it's the key in that sense. But anyway, if you've ever had a DNF, or if you've just experienced a DNF, maybe it'll be an awakening moment for you as well, because it certainly was for me. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. That would really help me to grow the channel. You might find other interesting videos if you explore on the channel as well, by the way. Please do check out our website. That's ukhomegym.com. And I'll see you next time on UK Home Gym.